Tonight on 2020, surviving summer. Everything from getaways to getaway.
All we heard was kaboom.
First, at a fancy hotel. Does this say customer service to you? Security guards turning on the guests.
I just kept yelling that she's a minor, don't touch her.
So why are the people who are supposed to be keeping the peace taking these people down?
Is this you right here, sir? Do you think this is appropriate, Mr. Roll? Did you go over the line?
5-star smackdowns. Plus, what's in the water that's making people so sick this summer? We're testing the tides for the dirtiest beaches. Did you go to one?
You guys are dropping like flies. This is like the movie Bridesmaids.
Megan, no! Look away!
Seasick. But while you're at the summer blockbusters, Planet of the Apes may be on screen. What's off screen? On the floor and in your seat.
Theater owners are gonna kill me for this.
Scary movie. And all those hot car catastrophes. Kids left inside. But are Good Samaritans going too far? Turning in innocent moms?
It's one thing to say, no, you should never leave your child, but a lot of parents don't have an option.
Hot car hysteria. Tonight, surviving summer. Here now, Elizabeth Vargas and David Muir.
Tonight, with millions of American families trying to get the most out of these final weeks of summer, so many headed to America's shores. But if you or someone you know is checking into a hotel, tonight here, the video that will shock you. Straight from the Jersey Shore's famed Atlantic City.
And it's all captured on tape. The knockdown, drag-out brawl between security guards and guests. Did security go too far? Brian Ross tonight with the tape and the tough questions. What will you decide?
In its jazzy marketing campaign, Atlantic City and its casinos promote the New Jersey oceanfront resort as a place where everyone is welcome. Gamblers, hipsters, and families. That's not what the Binns family of Cape Coral, Florida found.
It was miserable. It was absolutely miserable.
University of Pennsylvania student and classical guitarist Sean Oakes fared no better.
Not what you expected when you came to Atlantic City?
Not what I expected.
And it was even worse for former college basketball player Rob Coney, now a junior accountant in Philadelphia.
I'm laying in the pool of my own blood. I thought I was dying. I thought I was dead.
All of this took place in one casino in Atlantic City, Harrah's, part of the giant Caesars Entertainment Corporation, one of the biggest gambling companies in the world.
There's all security using unnecessary, unprovoked violence to handle situations.
The incidents have now led to a series of lawsuits against Harrah's and its parent company, with casino surveillance videos provided to 2020 by lawyer Paul D'Amato, who calls them the best evidence of negligence, assault, and battery against his clients.
No sane person can explain the conduct that we see in those videos.
Even if you're raising your voice at the front desk?
Yes.
Or having an argument with a security officer?
This is the United States of America. The last time I saw and heard, we don't beat people up for raising their voices or getting upset.
In the case of the Binns family, now suing Harrah's, voices were raised and security moved in after John Binns, a professional poker player, says he was being evicted because the hotel computer mistakenly did not list him as a guest, even though they'd been staying there for 2 days. Then suddenly, what few would consider good hospitality.
They grabbed him and just slammed him to the floor. And all I could say was, get off of him, he's got a pacemaker.
Renee Binns, a lawyer, and her daughter Andrea say they too got loud, afraid for his life.
They were very rough, just like slammed him to the floor.
And then, as mother and daughter walked away from the scene toward the elevators to their room, security swooped in to stop them.
I just kept yelling that she's a minor, don't touch her, as loud as I could.
Watch as the daughter is rustled to the ground and handcuffed.
I didn't know where my mom was, and then I remember being brought to the floor and getting my face smashed into the marble floor.
And then mom brought down, dragged off by a man her lawyer says is the casino's head of security.
It ended up with a broken nose for Andrea, whiplash, and early termination of what was supposed to be a very nice family trip.
For 26-year-old college student Sean Oakes, a trip with a friend to Atlantic City was supposed to be a chance to meet girls. As part of its effort to attract more than the usual gambling crowd, Harrah's hosts a hugely popular indoor pool party. Throbbing music, a packed dance floor with the liquor flowing. Oak says his problem began even before he got inside, as a security guard closely inspected his driver's license, as seen on the hotel surveillance tape.
And he starts to bend my ID in half. And I was like, oh my God, don't do that.
As Oakes tries to grab his driver's license back, the trouble begins.
A whole gang of people jumped on me and piled on and kicked me and hit me in the back of the head, and they were wailing on me. And I heard a voice behind me saying, break his arms if you have to.
In the movies like Ocean's 11 and another called 21, casino security people are portrayed as very tough, at least in dealing with card cheats. In the real-life version, Oakes, who was not a card cheat, ended up, he says in this lawsuit, punched, kicked, and stomped on. In a complaint filed with police, a Harrah security guard claimed that Oakes was the aggressor, but the complaint was dropped this week.
Are you an aggressive, violent person?
No, absolutely not.
Been in many fights?
Never.
Until this night in Atlantic City.
I wouldn't even call it a fight, though, because I wasn't fighting anyone. I was just being beaten.
But the worst of the incidents at the popular casino involved Rob Coney, whose 6'7" height made him a standout basketball player in school. But security guards said his size made them fearful, according to a report later filed by an off-duty police officer working for the casino. Coney, in the plaid shirt, says the incident began when a guard wrongly said he had left the pool party and could not return. His friend in the vest apparently tries to calm things down by backing him off. Coney admits he had been drinking at the time, like most of those at the party, and became upset and used rough language. Coney says Harrah security, including the off-duty Atlantic City police officer in uniform, kept at it, even as they were in the lobby, and his friends continued to back him away. Here the video shows the officer with his baton in his right hand, about to move in.
And next thing I know, this officer strikes me in my throat, and then he brings his baton, and then he chases me and beats me. And I'm on the ground, and they're on top of me, hitting me.
Coney is later hauled off, bleeding from his head. The off-duty officer would later claim Coney pushed him twice and charged him in a fighting manner. While Coney later pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor disorderly person count, no charges were brought against the off-duty police officer who beat him with the baton, and Coney has now filed a civil lawsuit.
That's an assault.
We showed the tapes of all three incidents to security expert and retired New York City police detective Nick Cassell, who says no language and nothing he saw on the tape justifies the baton beating.
They may be irate, they may be loud.
They may be obnoxious. The worst thing you could imagine does not justify you to hit someone with a nightstick. Not just hit them, he wailed at him.
All of this could not come at a worse time for Atlantic City, where several of its casinos are closed or planning to close, as fewer gamblers have been showing up there. The new Atlantic City mayor, Don Guardian, has been pushing for the city to do more to make the resort a welcome, family-friendly place. The mayor said he had not seen the videos from Harrah's until we showed him some of them.
So this is a surprise to you in this.
This is a surprise.
He did not like what he saw.
Beating can't be tolerated. It's unacceptable. Violence can't be tolerated.
And as to that off-duty Atlantic City police officer with the baton, the mayor said as of the beginning of this year, police officers are no longer allowed to work for the casinos as bouncers.
Isn't this a matter for internal affairs at the very least?
Absolutely. I am going to raise it now because you've just brought it to my attention.
Harrah's would not provide anyone to appear in our report.
Mr. Earl, Brian Ross, ABC News.
And when we went to find the director of security, Doug Roll, who the lawyer bringing the lawsuit says was present in each incident, Roll told us he could not answer our questions.
Is this you right here, sir?
Sir, like I said, unfortunately, we're not allowed to comment on any of this.
Do you think this is appropriate?
Sir, we're not allowed to comment on any of this. Okay?
Do you think this is appropriate, Mr. Roll? Did you go over the line?
Later, in a written statement, the casino said its security personnel are trained to use the least amount of force required while taking necessary steps to protect guests, employees, and themselves. but there was no comment on any of the cases involving the dramatic videos.
This is a city that needs to be hospitable. That type of activity can't occur. When that occurs, we're in the wrong business.
Coming up, sand, surf, and slobber?
There's a whole bunch of urban slobber.
Yep, slobber. So what else is making people so sick?
Felt like a piece of poop.
Will your favorite beach make our list of troubled waters?
A day at the beach should never lead to a night at the hospital.
Surviving the sea. Next.
It's the most famous line of the summer. The water's fine, come on in. Well, not necessarily. As you've seen in the last week here, we've reported on that scare in the water. For a time, families told they couldn't drink it, not to go near it. So how do you know how safe that water really is? Tonight, the 2020 test. Cecilia Vega armed with a test kit, and the results are in.
Ah, sweet summer, the time of year when we get back in touch with our more amphibious aspirations. Of course, this means close contact with Mother Nature's most notorious nuisances: sharks, alligators, jellyfish. Now, attacks from creatures lurking in the dark depths are serious, but they aren't nearly as common as the attacks from stuff inside the water that we can't see.
There's a whole bunch of urban slobber from the upper watershed that makes its way down and then flows onto the beach.
Steve Fleischle works for the National Resources Defense Council.
And then you throw in the mix horse and bird poop, and it sort of makes a witch's brew of contamination at these beaches.
Blech. All that bacterial brew may be bubbling where we least expect it. Let's start our magical misery tour right here at the Malibu Pier Beach in California, smack in the middle of wealth and glamour.
This beach, Malibu Pier, is considered a repeat offender. Time after time, scientists have found bacteria in this water right here where you can see children are playing, surfers are surfing. We're going to take some samples and find out how dirty it really is.
We packed our sample bottles in a cooler and headed for a lab. We wait for the results, knowing this water could be teeming with bacteria. But that's not stopping anyone from diving in. Now, most beaches post warnings if bacteria counts are too high, and even shut them down if the counts are out of control. But that could be too late for some swimmers.
We surf all over the world. This is one of the only places where we're getting sick.
It's kind of a bummer to hear that there's fecal matter.
When you swim in contaminated water, there's a grim inventory of diseases that can be associated with that, from stomach flu to pink eye to ear infection to eye infection.
Okay, Steve, we get the picture. Malibu Pier is in good company. The list of the worst bacteria-infested beaches spans the country, and sickness abounds from coast to coast. Our next stop, Horseshoe Lake in Washington State. It might look like the perfect spot to take a summer dip, but last month, swimmers there found out what really lies below the surface, the hard way.
A summer scare in Kitsap County.
The calls were coming one after another.
82 reported.
82 reported phone calls?
Yeah.
Wow. Families ended up praying to the porcelain gods.
Do you remember what you felt like?
Felt like a piece of poop.
My stomach started to twist and turn.
But oh no, it did not end there.
My friend Wendy was sick. My uncle got sick. My friend Damon got sick. Her dad, a couple of the other neighbor kids.
You guys are dropping like flies.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This is like the movie Bridesmaids.
Megan, no! Look away! Oh!
And like the movie,
what did we eat?
Some of them thought they ate something bad, but we don't know if we have a leaky sewer line, toxic algae. We don't know if it isn't an E. coli outbreak. We don't know for sure what it is.
But it was none of those things. The final tally of suffering swimmers soared past 300. Lab test results confirm Jim Zimney's strongest hunch, the very same bug that has notoriously spread from person to person on cruise trips from hell.
More than 600 people fell violently ill.
was deep inside this lake too, the dreaded norovirus. Turns out this gastrointestinal bully can rule the waters too.
One person who went into this water behind you was sick, and now hundreds of people suffer because of that.
Yeah.
It's that contagious.
People are going in the water. They're basically taking a bath with everybody else who's out there in the water.
The problem with viral contamination at beaches is that they're not sampling most beaches for viruses, they're sampling for bacteria.
It seems summer outbreaks are popping up as often as a bad sunburn. On Lake Erie just days ago,
nearly 500,000 Toledo area residents unable to drink water from the taps.
That's no swimming, no showers, no teeth brushing, all because the usually blue waters turned into green sludge. It's from toxic algae that's gotten worse every year thanks to farm fertilizer runoff and leaky septic systems. At Florida beaches last month, authorities issued an alert for flesh-eating bacteria. Stay out of the water if you have an open wound or weakened immune system. This nasty stuff occurs naturally in warm, salty water, leading to 41 infections in the state last year and 11 deaths. And last year in Little Rock, Arkansas, a day at this water park turned nearly deadly for Kaylee Hardig.
All of a sudden, the headache just started getting worse.
And I knew when her eyes rolled back in her head, I knew something bad was wrong.
They race to the emergency room where Kaylee gets the news. She is infected with a terrifying brain-eating amoeba known as Naegleria, most likely from the water.
It's 99% fatal, 1% survival rate. This is Friday night, and they told us she'd be gone by Monday.
It took nearly a month-long induced coma, but Kaylee is now one of only 3 people ever known to survive this very rare infection. Naegleria grows in fresh water warmed by the summer sun. The good news is, it's not easy for it to enter the human body. So what about those tests we ran for contaminated water at the Malibu Pier? Well, it's official. Bad bacteria. The good news, though, the levels are so low they won't make anyone sick.
A day at the beach should never lead to a night at the hospital.
So Steve says, don't go in the water within 3 days of a heavy rainstorm. You can also protect yourself by not dunking your head or allowing water to get into your mouth or nose, and by staying out when you have open cuts.
Also, if you're sick, do everybody a favor and don't go in the water.
But it is summer, we get it, it's hot outside, and sometimes those blue waters are just too inviting to pass up.
We're gonna go catch some waves. Have a good day.
No matter what may secretly lurk beneath.
Coming up, you'll be shocked, literally.
All we heard was kaboom.
Freak lightning this summer, and it's striking inside your house.
I was hit by lightning sitting on my couch.
But why are men more likely to get hit?
Oh my God.
Surviving the sky. Next.
Well, it sure seems this has been the summer of extreme weather. August, of course, part of the peak season for lightning. We saw what happened along those California beaches. Multiple swimmers hit by lightning. 70% of all deaths from lightning happen in the summer. So once and for all, where do you go when lightning strikes? Because as you're about to learn, even sitting in your own living room, you're not entirely safe. Meteorologist Ginger Z tonight with the reality check.
July 27th, a monsoon-fueled storm hugging the California coast, exploding with bolts of lightning.
One guy said he felt like electricity go through his fillings and his teeth.
Striking more than a dozen and claiming the life of a 20-year-old.
I don't know. Oh my God.
It's the MO usually associated with lightning. Attack quickly and strike outdoors. But this summer, lightning is making house calls.
I still can't to this day believe that I was hit by lightning sitting on my couch.
You heard right. Just last week, Teresa Celeste was jolted from the comfort of her living room in upstate New York.
It was the sound of like a bomb going off inside your house.
At the time, Teresa was being treated to a foot rub by her mother.
She does this for you regularly?
Yes, she does. She does. Yes, and I was just sitting here like this, and it was thundering lightning, and one struck in the backyard and went, "Oh my God, Mom, that is so close."
And you saw it?
Right there, I saw that lightning. And the next thing I knew, it was the sound, and I went like this, I guess, and my mother felt the jolt.
So right through your hands, you felt it?
Yeah.
I felt it.
She felt it. I don't remember feeling anything.
A roofer came to inspect the damage and could not find the point of entry, but the path is clearly visible if you look at her ceiling.
You think you're safe sitting in your house, and I guess you're not.
In Maine, Christine Poor suffering blisters on her feet after a bolt came through a light fixture on Wednesday.
I thought the bulb had broken, but it shot down and like danced around in the bathroom sink like you were welding.
She was standing right here and it just came through the light.
In Atlanta, 7-year-old Sebastian Cedeno was struck while he was inside his house with his mother.
We're standing at the bay window, and then all of a sudden we hear this big croosh, and it blew both of us back. Both of our hands went to our ears, and all I could see was my son on the ground, and his foot was smoking.
Fortunately, little Sebastian survived, and indoors is still the safest place to be in a storm. But lightning expert John Jensinius says you still have to be aware of your surroundings.
You want to avoid any contact with any metal connections with the outside. That would include anything that's plugged into the wiring.
So stay off the corded phones, the computer, and away from appliances.
You don't want to be taking a shower. You don't want to be washing dishes. The water inside your home is a conductor of electricity.
So stay out of the kitchen and the bathroom.
We also recommend that you stay away from doors and windows.
And position yourself toward the center of a room. Of course, the overwhelming number of lightning strikes still occur outside, on open fields, and open roads.
The ultimate caught-on-camera moment. Take a look at this. A truck is driving down a highway in Canada when it's suddenly struck by lightning.
There's just so much we still don't know about lightning. Back in 2012, I went on a mission with my friend and mentor, the late storm chaser Tim Samaras.
Oh, look at that. That was beautiful.
Tim wanted a glimpse into what makes that power, that electric flash of light, and how we might better understand the mystery behind this lethal phenomenon. Armed with his ultra-high-speed camera, he tried to capture this elusive moment, the birth of a lightning strike.
Then the return stroke.
Oh my God! Even though every thunderstorm is pregnant with that brilliant but deadly force, we know surprisingly little about where, when, or why it strikes.
Why does it choose a target like a tree instead of a building, or a building instead of a tree? You know, perhaps some of the imagery that we collect in the field may help answer some of those questions.
Sadly, that mission must now be shouldered by other scientists. Less than a year after this interview, Tim, his son Paul, and a colleague were killed in a tornado in Oklahoma. While 90% of lightning strike victims survive, they often suffer long-lasting effects. Michael Utley has been feeling them for 14 years.
My heart stopped 3 times that day.
Utley was playing a tournament with friends on Cape Cod when they ran into the ultimate gulf hazard.
I heard the loudest bang of my life. As soon as that happened, we turned around, and Mike was on the green, scorched, his shoes were blown off, and he was just unconscious, smoking.
He spent the next 38 days in a coma.
Who gets struck by lightning? Who takes that something seriously? I mean, what are the odds of that happening to you? You're 48 and invincible.
These days, Utley is about as far from invincible as you can get.
Because my lower legs, there's no muscles left in them. They will not rebuild. I've been working out with a trainer every week for 14 years, and they just won't rebuild.
Mike is quite a fighter, and he still is today, but he had to go through a lot to get back to where he is today.
There are also concerns about what lightning can do to your mind.
For the most part, you don't see injuries. Example, if you had a laptop and you spilled a Coca-Cola on it, you could clean it up, the laptop would look the same, but I don't think it would run the same.
People that have been struck by lightning sometimes suffer personality changes. They just may not be the same person they were before they were struck.
People that are struck by lightning and live, there's a high percentage of personality changes, of very bad things happening afterward. You're very lucky, too, that you're feeling the same.
I'm feeling the same, but I find myself very nervous. It's not usually me. That's not my personality. I was really lucky that I'm still here today to talk about it.
Of course, we're glad she's okay, too. And here's the question for you tonight. How close have you been when lightning strikes? We are live tweeting. Ginger is too. Use the hashtag ABC2020.
And when we come back, a huge debate tonight. Children left in cars even for a moment. You're about to see the hot car vigilantes. People going after the parents. Who's right here? You've got to see this.
Coming up, kids in hot cars and horrible headlines.
Police here are 15 children.
But are video vigilantes turning innocent moms into monsters?
If we start arresting parents for things that could happen, there is no parent safe on earth.
The side you haven't heard when we return.
Nearly every parent has been in this position. You need to run a quick errand, but your child's in the car. Can you leave them there for a minute? In this summer's wake of horrible hot car deaths, more than 20 so far, some well-meaning parents are getting in big trouble. Complete strangers videotaping them and their kids. So tonight we ask, who's right, who's wrong, and what would you do? 'Tis the season.
5-year-old boy found dead inside a car, leaving his 3-month-old boy to die in a hot car.
The season of scorching headlines.
It's happened again.
It's the second incident of a child being left in a hot car in as many days.
15 children have died.
The season of amplified advocates.
Children are dying every single year over and over again.
The season of sincere and sweltering citizen selfies.
And I'm going to see how long I can sit in this car with no AC.
Well, I've been in here for about 15 minutes and I feel like I'm going to pass out.
I can barely breathe out here.
I'm suffocating.
All alerting us to the hottest topic in child endangerment. Family vehicles becoming death traps as parents leave children unattended while temperatures rise to lethal levels.
Man, don't be the next fool on the damn news talking about you left your kids in the back seat.
Some of this is heated reaction to the most shocking case of the summer. Justin Ross Harris, a Georgia father, charged with murder for intentionally leaving his 22-month-old son to bake in a hot SUV for 7 hours. He has pled not guilty. The frenzied coverage of this case and other tragic child deaths is prompting bystanders to take action. As we showed you earlier tonight on What Would You Do, these folks were quick to intervene when they believed a mother left her baby in the back seat.
That's my baby. Is she crying again?
Yeah, leave her in the car by yourself.
That's my baby, and I'm back here now.
I don't care if it's your baby. I'm going to have to call it in.
It's not that hot.
Of course, we all want to keep kids safe, but this hot car thing has reached the point where some are saying it's time to chill.
We've created a culture where we've almost deliberately confused people as to what constitutes a danger.
Lenore Skenazy is a mother and an author known for her opposition to overprotective parenting. She says we are in the midst of a hot car hysteria.
Did we just lock our baby in the car?
Oh, Lily, it's okay.
A, B, C.
What are you singing to her? People get arrested for this, Mitchell.
Invading every modern family.
Rob, we locked our baby in the car and people are judging us.
I swear to God, I'm gonna break it!
Do not break.
We really think that the minute a parent leaves the car, if the car is unattended for any moment at all, a child dies.
Exhibit A, the case of Kim Brooks.
I wasn't sort of given the benefit of the doubt and allowed, to make a parenting choice.
Brooks is a mother and a writer whose ordeal begins on a brisk March morning. Temperatures are only in the high 40s. Kim's been visiting her parents with her 2 kids and is packing for her return flight home. Suddenly, she realizes her then 4-year-old son's headphones are broken. So she makes the 1-mile drive with her son to the store. And when you got to the store, what happened?
He was playing the iPad game, and he said, can I wait in the car? I don't want to go in. I want to finish my game. It was really a split-second decision.
So what did you do to make sure he was safe?
So I pulled as close as I could to the store, opened the windows a few inches. I got out. I locked the door. In my head, I just thought, I'm not going shopping. I need one item.
Kim says she's in and out of the store in 5 minutes. And with her son still happily tickling that iPad, she doesn't give it a second thought. That is, until she arrives back home and gets a voice message from the police. A stranger had taken cell phone video of her son alone in the car and reported it.
When you got on the phone to talk to the police officers, what do they say to you?
We want to talk to you about leaving your child in the car.
But you did come back.
Well, that's what I said. I came back within 5 minutes. He wasn't in danger. The car wasn't hot.
The answer seems to suffice for 9 months, until one morning Kim gets another call from the police. They want her in handcuffs.
They said, "Are you aware that there's a warrant out for your arrest?"
A warrant for your arrest for what?
Contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
I mean, most people think that means buying a teenager beer.
Right, exactly. That was what I thought, too.
Despite the fact that she has no history of anything criminal or negligent, Kim is facing a maximum of 1 year in prison and a minimum of thousands of dollars in legal fees.
At one point, you actually wanted to go to trial because you felt that they wouldn't be able to win this case.
The thought crossed my mind, and I brought it to the lawyers. But he said, this is going to be tried in juvenile court. Juvenile courts are always going to err on the side of protecting the child. I don't think you want to risk the consequences.
2 years later, after Kim commits to 100 hours of community service and parenting classes, the prosecutor finally drops the charges. But the damage is done, especially to Kim's young son.
The result is he was really frightened, you know. He went through a phase where he would not want to be out of my sight for a second.
Kim's story is not unique. We spoke to 6 other moms with similar stories, all of whom wish to remain anonymous, each recounting the terror of possibly doing time or even losing their kids. Several agreed to be interviewed but then backed out, telling us they remain terrified of the legal and social repercussions of going public.
If we start arresting parents for things that could happen, there is no parent safe on earth.
So you don't think leaving your child in a car unattended in a parking lot is dangerous?
The minute you put them in the car to drive them anywhere, that's the most risk you could be putting them in. More kids die being in the parking lot or behind a car in a driveway.
Safety advocates acknowledge the number of deaths overall is small, but the campaign to ban kids left in cars is still important.
Bottom line, when it comes to cars and children and death, or being left in a car, is not even in the top 10, is it?
But that's not to say that we should turn a blind eye to it.
But more children die being backed over in a parking lot or a driveway, or die in car accidents than they do sitting in a parked car waiting for their parent.
It's true, it's true.
You and I are both mothers. We both know that there are times when our child
Someone
doesn't want to do something,
hand.
there's a tantrum happening, or they're asleep and you don't want to wake them up. I
yes,
mean,
but if by definition, if you're leaving a child alone in a vehicle, they are unsupervised.
Perhaps it's come to that. Now any unsupervised moment is, by definition, a sign of bad parenting. And for Kim Brooks, that is what's really scary.
You have to be afraid of other people second-guessing your decisions as a mother and calling the police on you.
Exactly. My concern now is that it seems like in addition to being afraid of everything for our kids, we also have to be afraid that we're going to be perceived as not being afraid enough.
You'll have a lot of opinions about this one, and we want to hear them, so tweet us using the hashtag ABC2020.
When we come back here tonight, escaping the summer heat into the air conditioning at the movie theater. But what else are you getting when you sit down in that seat?
Oh.
The blockbuster findings next. Well, it's the season of the summer blockbuster, but before you get spooked about what's on the big screen, what about what's in your seat or on the floor beneath you? When Nick Watt told us what he found, we couldn't believe it.
This summer blockbuster season, you've got options.
Together, strong.
Pesky apes threatening the planet. Your standard homicidal super genius sex hot plot.
Hello, and welcome to an evening with Annie and Jay.
Or maybe you like a farcical rom-com.
Instead of erasing the video like you said that you would, you accidentally sent it to all our friends and family?
If you go to the movies, whichever genre floats your boat, you're going to find yourself packed inside a big dark room with a couple of hundred total strangers. What's that smell? What's that guy doing? What's that on my foot? Is that legal? That can't be clean. We went on a journey swabbing theatres across the land, grilling the experts.
There's nothing more crazy than owning a movie theater.
To bring you the truth.
There's no law that says they have to clean these seats.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
What goes on inside the movie theater once the lights are down?
Well, you could tell by what goes on inside the movie theater with what you find after the movie.
Okay, go on.
Used condoms.
Really?
You got a romantic comedy, it's like the Mile High Club, and it's going to happen in your theater, trust me.
2 weeks ago, this couple was arrested for indecent exposure after some hanky-panky during a showing of Godzilla. They've pleaded not guilty.
Have you ever caught somebody in the moment?
Yes, but if nobody complains, let them get away with it.
What I always complain about are the prices. $8 for a bucket of popcorn that costs, wait for it, maybe 8 cents to make. A 10,000% markup? Seriously?
Give me money, give me cash.
Daylight robbery? Well, not exactly.
I make money by selling concessions.
Because, and here's a little-known fact, up to 70% of your ticket price goes to the studio and distributor, leaving the theatre owner with pocket change. And wait until you hear this.
You got to do little tricks to get them to buy concessions.
Okay, like?
Well, in my theater, I've got an exhaust pipe that runs from the popcorn machine into the actual auditorium.
You used to pipe the smell of popcorn into the auditorium.
Oh, no, we still do pipe the smell of popcorn into the auditorium. Absolutely.
And if we didn't all fall prey at the concession stand, our ticket price would skyrocket. It's a nacho cheesy, hot diggity doggy trade-off. And there is another problem with all that food.
You know, a lot of theaters have problems. I don't want to say this. I won't say it.
Come on.
They have some little creatures running around your feet at night.
Roaches or rodents?
You've got to really make sure that you've got a good exterminator. God, theater owners are going to kill me for this.
You go walking across and your feet stick to the floor, right? So who's going to wear sandals? God only knows what you're walking on.
Or what's walking on you. Bed bugs. Last month, there were reports of itching at a theatre in Virginia, and in 2010, the AMC Empire in Times Square closed temporarily while exterminators culled some little critters. Remember I said we took samples?
We're going to go in and try and swab the seats and the floor without anybody noticing.
We did this in a bunch of theatres in New York and Los Angeles, and we came back to Dr. Philip Tierno to analyze our results.
The seat and other areas of the theater are contaminated with the public that sat before you.
Now, most theatres are not problematic, but at the theatres we visited, on armrests and even 3D glasses sealed in plastic, we found traces of all kinds of live organisms with big, scary names. Microscopic bugs that can cause things like food poisoning, boils, and sinusitis. In a Manhattan cinema, we detected bacteria usually found in cattle and soil. Don't ask me. On seats in both LA and New York, we found bacteria common in human feces. More understandable, just as gross.
Are there government laws as to how often you have to clean these chairs?
No, unfortunately. There should be. Some theaters don't. I've been in theaters that they don't clean up.
The National Association of Theatre Owners had no comment. Okay, Doc, so help us out. How do we not get that stuff in our mouths?
If you're going to hit the armrest, keep your hand in the air so that you can go to the dirty hand, this one that can touch anything, including the outside of the popcorn box, and then you eat your popcorn with your good hand. Always have a good hand and a bad hand.
Micrococcus luteus on the armrest? You know what? That's almost forgivable. This is not.
People who are texting while you're trying to watch the movie. You might as well bring a flashlight and shine it over your shoulder at the people behind you.
The Alamo Drafthouse chain, which has a zero-tolerance cell phone policy, banned Madonna from all their theatres for allegedly texting during 12 Years a Slave.
Until Madonna apologizes, she is not welcome at the Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah, I was wondering if you
Listen to this voicemail left by another patron kicked out for a similar crime.
I didn't know that wasn't supposed to text in your little crappy-ass theater.
Seems like she maybe had a little bit too much to drink and gave us a piece of her mind. And it was very charming in its own way.
You know what?
The chain used this as a public service announcement before R-rated movies.
Okay, so excuse me for using my phone in USA, United States of America.
They got to go, and I've had that happen many times.
Robert Buxbaum, who, remember, will never break up a courting couple, will kick you out for cell phone use.
You've got a stricter policy on cell phone use than you have on having sex in the theater.
Absolutely. You know, if you're not bothering another customer, you get away with as much as you want in a movie theater.
And that's why, when all's said and done, going to the movies is the most fun you can have with your clothes on. Or off, perhaps, if you're those kind of people.
That's our program for tonight, but tune in tomorrow for a special 2020 Saturday. A murder, 2 women. Were they sleeping with the enemy? John Quinones with that story. I'm Elizabeth Vargas.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, thanks for watching tonight. Have a great weekend.